like people join as they desire. It has already been a challenge coming in today. Oh, here's some more people. 1 second. Yes. Our office, I was at the office and I had to quickly rush home because the internet decided to stop working at the office. And we tried everything to get it back on. And I was like, on the one day the internet decides to not work is the day I have, the one day of the month that I have a masterclass. And so because it wasn't guaranteed that it would work again before the masterclass started, I was like, I got to get home, cancel anyone that's coming. And I got to run home to be able to do this masterclass, which is why it is being done from not the office and you can see Lego in the background. Anyway, so
thanks for the effort.
It is part of this journey, is that the universe says, how badly do you want it? Like, what obstacles can I put in your way?
I catch it.
That's it. What obstacles can I put in your way so that you can decide how much you want to do this? Because there was when the office manager was like, well, you could also cancel it or reschedule it. I'm like, I could, but I'm going to run around and see if I can figure this out anyways. Because by that time she'd been working on the internet for 2 hours, so she'd given up on that for now. We finally called our tech person, so they're at the office, but it couldn't be guaranteed that this would work. So in the process of becoming, it's a bigger opportunity than just focusing on a goal. So usually when we try and manifest something, like let's say, even you don't even have to use the manifest, but if you want something, let's say you want to be in a relationship, you're wanting financial freedom, you're wanting health, whatever it is that you're wanting, you focus on that goal. You want to win, you want a new job, whatever it is, you're focusing on just that one thing. And sometimes it's like a one event thing. And when you're focusing on that one thing, it's simply the goal. However, if you are focusing on something bigger behind it, whether you reach your goal or not, you're already becoming something more. So instead, what I mean by, if you focus on your becoming, who you're becoming along the way, then let's say something doesn't happen in the timeline that you wanted. Let's say you want to be, in a relationship by the time you were 50, and that didn't happen. And then you're upset because of the time. When you're manifesting on who you're becoming, everything that's happened along the way, the relationships that you've had or whatever, has come into, makes you part of who you are in the bigger picture. Another example. So in January, some of you know, I started training jiu-jitsu. And in March, I believe, there was a competition. And I said, oh, that's really scary. That sounds really, really bad. And I thought, since it was a challenge, I was going to try and enter this competition. And I said, well, if I would like to win something like a match, which did not happen. However, so that was my goal. I was like, okay, my goal is to practice as hard as I can, do what's within my capabilities to try and win a match. And it didn't happen. Now, if I was only focusing on the goal, I'd be like, oh man, that's not fun at all. That sucks. And I did not achieve my goal. However, if the focus was, who am I becoming? Well, in not winning, you learn way more than when you win. Right? There's the opportunity to be like, oh, this is what. So I had a breakdown with my instructors, and I said, this is what went well. This is what you could do better. And when I lost, it was by like 1 point. So they were like, you almost got your goal anyway. So, but had I won, I would not have learned the lessons that I learned when I lost. And so if I was just to judge it by the goal, I did not achieve my goal. But if I was to look at it as a bigger picture on who am I becoming along the way, I learned a ton of things that day, way more than I would have ever learned had I won. Because when you win, it's a time for celebration. You're like, yay, I did it. I achieved my goal, everything. However, when it's part of who you're becoming, it's the next evolution for who you are. In the loss, in the grief, in the fear, in the trauma is where that's the opportunity for you to learn the lesson from the low. This is what one of the things we were talking about is. So for those of you who have not been part of the 21-day challenge, I've been behind the scenes doing a 21-day challenge. It's the Catalyst Challenge. And it is using your pain, your grief, everything that you're going through in order to fuel the next version of yourself. And so this was the last class of that because it comes into who you're becoming. So the last 21 days, I've been every day doing a training inside Telegram. So if you still want to access that, it's free. So if you still want to access that, you can still join the Telegram group. For some of you who've been asking if the recordings are anywhere else, not at this time. I do not have time to download them and put them up somewhere else. So right now, everything is in the Telegram group. So if you can get on Telegram and join the group, you can access all the 20 days of training. This is day 21. And the whole journey is about how you use your fuel in order to access the next level of who you are. And so every loss, every thing that you're going through, every circumstance, every event, everything that is happening for you is an evolution to your becoming. And that is why we are all here. All right. So is there anybody here who has listened to some of the Catalyst trainings that would like to speak, even if it's just one or two of them? And if you do, you can go take yourself off of mute. And if you don't want to, there's somebody writing in the chat. Okay. Yes, Ivana. Okay. Can you take yourself off of mute, Ivana, if you're willing to?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Hello.
Hi.
Looks like you're sitting in a lovely place.
I'm on the deck at home.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So tell me who you were when you first started the challenge, and then what you've learned so far along the way.
I think one of the easiest way to summarize it was that I was a reactionary without knowing where the reaction was coming from. And after I've done like 2/3 of the challenge so far, and there is deep diving. And I'm beginning to make connections that I would never, ever have made before. A lot of them in the past, connections that I thought, oh, why am I thinking of this? And then sitting and exploring that thought and then realizing that there's a pattern. It might be slightly different, but there's a pattern. And I'm thinking, So there's a lot of introspection, connection with past either behavior or past responses or something I thought I needed to respond to. So there's some deep diving, and there's some moments of shame and moments of forgiveness. And as a result, I think twice. Sometimes I still react in that way. And then I catch myself and I'm thinking, I think I owe someone an apology for having reacted that way. And so I'm starting to do that, thinking as I'm saying it, I actually incorporate that line into my speech. I say, I'm angry and I'm saying something or I'm reacting something. And I say, and you know what really bugs me? I'm going to have to apologize to you right after this argument is over. And that's the connection, but I still go through it. It hasn't stopped the behavior, at least not yet. It hasn't stopped it, but it's interfering with the accomplishment of the behavior. So that's what I'm getting out of it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So what Ivana was talking about, I believe, is the gap. This gap between your reaction, the stimulus, and the response. A lot of psychologists always talk about if you can give yourself a few more seconds in between the stimulus and the response, you might be able to choose your set of responses better. So we come into our response, there's an unlimited set of responses that can take place. There is so many things that can happen. And yet, we only have a few available to us based on how we show up in that moment. So based on your presence in the moment is your options appear for how you're going to respond. So usually when you are in a state of anger or frustration, it's the lower part of your brain. It is the amygdala. It is responsible for the lower thinking. There's not even a lot of thinking. It's just reaction. So it's your automatic response because anger is one of those. And when that's activated, you don't have your higher cortical thinking centers. So the higher parts of your brain where logic is involved, where creativity, where all these other higher thinking faculties are involved, happens, it takes a little longer to get there. So when you think, after you've, let's say, had an outburst in anger, said something you didn't mean to somebody, and then later on, you're like, oh, who was I? Like, why did I say that? I normally wouldn't say that. And you're like, how come I couldn't react or use the tools that I have in that moment? And it's because you have all your tools there and they're in a nice little cupboard, and then you have them locked there, but you didn't give yourself the key in the moment because you were so angry. And so it overrided all the tools that you have. So there are people who have tons of tools. They're like, but I know how to do breathing, like breath work. I have access to all what is it called? Affirmations. Like I have all these things. Yes, you do in a certain state. However, in a different state, at a different level of consciousness, you don't actually have access to that. Like your brain requires more oxygen to get to the higher cortical thinking centers. And so when you react right away, you aren't using your higher brain. It's often why we also tell people you're acting like a 5-year-old. They actually are. Their brain, that part of their brain. So when we can give ourselves a little bit of space, and by space, it could mean at first you can't change the behavior, but you're aware of it, or it takes you less time to become aware of it. So let's say, Ivana, you were like, okay, before it might take me 2 days of thinking about it in order to come back and apologize. And now it only takes an hour for you to come back before you apologize. Well, that means you've saved yourself all that time. So already you have collapsed time in that aspect. And then soon what you're going to notice is you're going to think about it. Like you're even going to think, oh, this is probably something I'm going to regret saying in that moment, but you still say it anyway. And then the next step will be, okay, I'm thinking about it. And then I actually have a little bit of time to choose whether I want to say it or whether I want to bite my tongue. And then soon it'll be enough time that you're like, okay, that's not actually even what I would like to say. And then you don't say it at all, or you say something different. But it is all in cutting down those timelines so that you get more of your time back. So you're on your way there. All right. We've had a few people join us in the last couple of minutes. So I had just asked if there's anybody who was in the Catalyst Challenge that they would like to say some of their thoughts or to give some of your experiences or have any questions that you wanted to ask pertaining to it. And if you do, you can take yourself off mute, or you can type them into the questions on the chat on the side. Oh, sorry, Anita, did you raise your hand?
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to say that, it was a really insightful journey for me. like just getting all these different perspectives. I think something that really stood out was day 17, like your presence is your superpower. But also like, because it kind of like sometimes when we're feeling like relating to change, you know, we feel scared. It might have been the day before the Anna, it was fear. Day 16, fear is required for change. So like courage, right? So oftentimes like we go back to something that's familiar, right? But that may not have been what we needed for change, right? But also in change, what I noticed was that I was in a situation and it started to feel familiar because I started to want to um like react and use like my old like overextend myself in a situation, right? And again, that felt familiar of like how I'm trying to get out of. So that was a flag for me to be like, no, I gotta stop. I can't move forward with this situation because it's just not right for me. Right? Like, so I wasn't trying to change the situation. I walked away from it. But I was changing my response to the situation because I know that I can't overextend and invest my energy into like a relationship per se, where like I'm not feeling the reciprocity, right? And it all boils down to because I know that I'm embodying my self-worth.
Beautiful.
And that's what it comes down to. So yeah, it was really profound the other day, and so I just wanted to share that with the group. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So what Anita was talking about, I believe, was that fear and courage. So courage requires fear to be present because it wouldn't, if fear wasn't there, it wouldn't require to call upon courage. And you don't feel the courage until after. It's like in the moment of it, you feel discomfort. You feel like, oh, this isn't something I want to do. Why am I choosing this? And for me, one of the places that I used to do that is I used to run away from conversations, like difficult conversations when I was, especially when I was younger, because I didn't want to have them. I wasn't able to fully experience them in my body without feeling threatened. So I would just run. And since working on this, it's being easier to stay. But there will be times where it will remind me still of my nervous system when I was younger. And so what I would have to do is to literally imagine myself as a tree and like root myself to the ground so that I don't run. And every time I've chosen to stay and feel those emotions even more or stay in the uncomfortable conversations longer, I've always felt after way better than before. And it's not even that the conversations become easier. It's simply that you are able to, you expand your capacity to hold that discomfort. The more you put yourself in uncomfortableness, the easier it is for you to hold the discomfort. And the more you can hold the discomfort, because life is not comfortable, there will always be something that comes up to challenge you and to help you evolve into the next version of yourself. Then you are increasing also your nervous system's capacity to hold whatever emotion it is that you're feeling. And then also you're increasing on the other side your courage to stay there. How proud are you after you've done something that you've been, that you've feared? And a lot of people these days, we try and take away somebody's ability to access their courage in terms of, let me do it for you. How about I do it so that you don't have to? Let me, and especially I see that when raising kids, like I could make my kids' life easier for sure. And yet there's part of me that says, okay, you could make it easier, and you're not always going to, because they have to be able to experience the discomfort of it. A lot of people ask why we put our kids in French school. And it's not even immersion French. It's like French, everything is French. No English they don't even have an English class for years and years and years into school. And every thing is communicated in French. And people were like, well, you could put them in French immersion at an English school, and then they would communicate with you in English, but the kids would have French. But we said, no, that would be easier for them. We want to make it difficult for them. We want to, and so they're learning a new language, and that is difficult in the moment when they're learning different languages. We did the same for Mandarin school. They greatly dislike going to Chinese school. They never enjoyed it. However, putting them in that environment of it, somebody said they're not great in Chinese, but somebody says something to them in Mandarin, and they understand a bit of it. And so, yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're never learning a new language is not going to be comfortable. And so the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, not unsafe situations, right? Uncomfortable situations, the more you're going to grow your capacity later on. Okay, Danielle, you says, thank you for sharing these personal moments with us. I had several moments of reflection, and I continue to reflect. Many thanks. Danielle, did you want to come on and share? If you don't want to, you don't have to either. This is just an invitation. It's not to call you out or anything like that. And also for some people, just to share, it is something that requires courage for them. And so it's an opportunity in a safe space to practice your courage should you want to.
Yes, it is needing courage to actually unmute. I don't have a camera ready, so you're just going to have to hear my voice. One of the first things, and I think it's one of the first in the first talks, you said a new version of yourself. And I was like, having that moment of thinking, after what I've been through with my surgery, as you know, I kept on saying, I want to go back to how things were. I want to go back to how things were. And when I heard that from you, I'm like, okay, I have to stop thinking that and just saying, this is the new version of me, and this is what I'm moving forward with. And it was something so basic that I just had one of those moments of, okay, it makes sense now. Even if I read it, even if I was thinking about it, like just when you said it, I was like, okay, I have to stop thinking I'm going to go in the past or just everything. So that's one of my first moments. And I've had several of like being taken back of just after the talk, just staying there and just saying, okay, how does that make me feel, and why, and what am I struggling to understand or whatever. So I had a lot of moments, and I'm still digesting everything. But I do want to thank you so much, because it was very personal, and I'm very sorry for your loss, and the way you're handling it is quite impressive, if I can say.
Thank you very much. So one of the, I believe the teachings that Danielle was saying is, I had a conversation with a friend. So for those of you that don't know, I lost my mom in May, so fairly recently. And this Catalyst Challenge was a tribute to her and how I moved through, or how I was moving through, past, present, and future, the grief that has come up because of it, and how to use the grief in the next version of myself. And I was talking to one of my friends who earlier this year lost her husband. And she was talking to me after I lost my mom and said, how are you even going to work? How are you happy going? And she's a member of my martial arts gym. And she's like, and you showed up for practice, very soon after. And she's like, I haven't been able to go. And I said, well, what are you feeling? And she said, I just can't get back to my old self. I can't find myself again. And I said, well, that's because you're not meant to. There will never be a time where I have my mom physically on earth back in my life. I can never get that back. And so I can never go back to a previous version of me, because the day that she passed, she stopped being my mom on the physical plane, of course, And I can't become that version of myself anymore. So if I'm going to go back and keep trying to go back to who I was before, first of all, I can never get there because time changes us all. Even a day later, we've already evolved past who we were before. But I can't go back because she will never be here again. So my options are to try and go back as much as I want, knowing that I can't get there, staying here where I am and stuck, or moving forward into a bigger and grander version of myself. And one of the things I've always said to myself is that it keeps getting better. It keeps getting better. Because so far in life, it's always, no matter, there's ups and downs, of course, but it gets better. And so if I believe, and I know it to be true for me, that it gets better, then in spite of all this, the grief and the sorrow and the sadness, it's going to keep getting better. I'm going to keep evolving. Because every year I'm evolving, I'm learning more, I'm growing. And so are all of us, if we choose to see it. And so there's no going back to a previous version of yourself. Instead, you can choose to move forward with the power that you received and the information and the downloads and the gifts and everything, excuse me, that you received from the previous version of yourself. And you incorporate the circumstance, and then you move on to the next version of who you are. And so you can't go back. I get this in the office too. They said, take me back to before I had low back pain or before my neck pain. And I said, if I brought you back to, let's say, a few days before you had your neck pain and your back pain, if your behaviors, your thoughts, your emotions, your physical being continues to do the same things that you've been doing, you're going to get back pain again. Even if this goes away for you right now, if you don't shift something, it keeps coming back. Have you ever had the experience where something keeps coming back again and again and again? And so we don't move back. We review the past. We learn lessons from the past. We can change the way that our relationship to the past. And from there, we go forward into the next evolution of who we desire to be. And the next evolution doesn't have to be one huge giant thing. People are like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what my becoming is. That's okay. You just go to the next step. It's always just one step, because the next step that you take already shifts who you're being. And in that shift of who you're being, you're going to send out a different frequency to the universe, and then it's going to reflect a different frequency or level of consciousness back to you. And so the options that you have available on steps 2, 3, 4, you don't know what those options are going to be until you take the first step. And then once you've shifted and changed and taken a step closer, then more become available to you. So for example, let's say you don't work out and you don't exercise, and your next step is to start exercising. Well, the step after that might be joining a gym or, meeting people at the gym, but you're not going to get to there had you not taken the first step of deciding that I'm going to start to exercise, or I'm going to work out and figure out, where it is that you want to go, or the diet that you want to take, or, you won't see the next step forward because you haven't taken the first step. But too often we project into the future. We're like, all right, I can't take a step forward because I'm scared, like in my business, because I am scared of losing my business 10 years from now. Okay. And you're like, so I better not start. All right. Well, we haven't gotten 10 years from now. We're projecting into our future, the present moment, and we're basing our future based on who you are right now. And we do this with children too. When we're raising our kids and they have a bad behavior, we're like, oh my goodness, or this is something I do, maybe other parents don't do that. I'm like, oh my goodness, my kid's gonna turn out to be like, he's gonna hit somebody at school. Let's say it's hitting at 2 years old. He's gonna go to school, he's gonna start hitting people, people are gonna hit him back, like all these things. And then when you bring it back, you're like, wait a sec. He's a 2-year-old and he hit one person, and that was his sister right now because he's frustrated and mad. Okay, many 2-year-olds hit. It doesn't mean every 2-year-old has hit something. It doesn't mean every single person ends up, hitting people, right? And so we project what is happening right now into the future and then 20 steps ahead. And then that's so fearful for us that we don't even move. when all we need is to make the next step. And when it comes to people, I see your hand up, Molly. And when it comes to people, it's to remember that they're good people, right? People are genuinely good. They have bad behaviors. And so we don't tell our kids they're a bad kid or they did something bad, because then they think that they're a bad kid. We say that behavior was not good. You are a good kid. And I repeat this so many times to them, like, you are a good kid. You're a great kid. That behavior just now, that was not. But as a rule, people are good. And then they have bad behaviors, some of them. All right, Molly, you had a question. Do you want to take yourself off mute?
Yeah, hi. I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to
I
share
can't
my
hear you.
experience. Oh, can you hear me now?
Okay, there. Yep, I got you. Yep.
Better? Okay. Yeah, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to share my
Yeah.
experience. And I thought it was funny, the example that you gave about telling your children that their behavior can be better. I was on vacation once, and my cousins would say to their kids who were the same age as mine, and they were little at the time, they'd be like, okay, well, let's do better. Let's do better at this. Let's do better at whatever. And I was like, oh, that's such a great thing to say. And my daughter did something that I felt needed corrected, and I said, Taya, be better. And my cousins were like, no, that's not what you say, because she's amazing. Like, you don't want her to be better. You want her to do better. Anyway, so funny that you shared that example. So for me, this challenge was amazing because I'm obviously going through a big life transition right now. And every single day, every lesson resonated with me immensely. I'm a little bit behind in the journaling because I was catching up. Like, I think I only started on day 15. But all of the lessons were great. The duality I could identify with, everything that we basically went through, everything that you said resounded with me. And the thing that I noticed is that everybody who's going through a change, whether it be a massive change like terminal cancer diagnosis or something going on in your personal life, or just even struggling with how you respond to difficult reactions, we're all going through the same shifts, just at different levels and at different points. And I found it fascinating. And I really liked hearing from the other people in the chat, because I felt like we're a community. It's not just me alone going through all of these things. This is a human journey, right? Not a journey of the specific things that we're going through. So that's it. Thank you for doing it. It was awesome. And I can't wait to finish all my journaling and kind of package it up nicely so that I can review it. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I think you're right about it, because we don't all have the same experiences in life. Everyone has lived a different life, right? We have different parents, lived in different places in the world. So all of our experiences are not the same. But what is the same is the emotions that we experience, right? Shame feels the same for everybody. It feels like shame. We name it shame. Anger feels the same. Despair feels the same. Grief, it feels the same. Whether somebody lost their dog, whether someone lost their mother, whether someone lost their partner, or whatever it is, the grief feels the same. So even though the experience is not the same, we are connected and in our ability to feel these same emotions, even though the circumstances are different around that. And no one gets to, we still experience the pain and the suffering and all of it. And you have an opportunity with that as well, right? We can choose to fight it. You can choose to try and take it away, to make it go away, to get out of it. You can choose to surrender to it. There's many options of what you want to do with it. You can shove it down and never deal with it again, although most of the time it comes back up. In I think Kung Fu Panda, and one of my favorite quotes has always been that you meet your destiny on the road that you take to avoid it. And I always laugh, because every time we think we're trying to avoid something by going somewhere else, we are met with seeing the thing that we've been trying to avoid. And because what we're trying to avoid is stored in a place we don't want to feel it, the world reflects it back at us so that we can see it. But no one told us that that's how it happens. We see it as, oh, they're separate from me. So they're making me feel angry. They're making me feel upset. They are triggering me. But I'm the one with the trigger. So they're just reflecting back at me my own trigger. So who is it that gets to do the work? Well, the person who's triggered, not the person who does a triggering. It's the trigger. And so one of the examples I say is, if you come home and your house is a mess, there's kids' shoes everywhere, all over the house, somebody who has a trigger that everything has to be neat, orderly, and tidily, and in this spot, is going to become triggered with a messy house. But somebody else can come in that same house and look at it and been like, wow, they must have had a great time today. Like, my house is a mess, but wow, it looks like there's sand everywhere. So they must have gone to the park and played. And then there's toys all over the place. Okay, the house is still standing. So it really is that it's your perception that allows you to see, and your level of consciousness at that moment to see what you see. And then from there, you make a story about it. And then from there, you react from it. And so the trigger is within you. It's for you to look at. If something else triggers you, you get curious. Curiosity is one of the best skills to have. Curiosity over judgment. Oh, I'm curious as to why you think that. I'm curious as to why you're saying that. Instead of, why did you say that? I can't believe you said that, right? I'm curious. Tell me, my favorite words to use, you guys all know if you're a patient of mine, is tell me more. I always say that. It's so easy. Tell me more. Dr. Amanda, I am feeling depressed. Tell me more. I'm feeling so angry. Tell me more. I'm so sad. Tell me more. Because it helps me to see where you are at, and also what stories that have been playing. And then from there, we can see what's underneath that. And so yesterday, I had a friend and a patient who was talking to me, and they were really upset because they were going through this difficult situation in their life. And their perception was that they had given somebody a letter, and then they had a response from the letter, and the response was not what they wanted. And they were very triggered and very upset because they said, how could this person respond like that? They are lying. They're not telling the truth, yada, yada, yada. It's making me look bad. And I said to this person, well, how is this helping you? Like, could this response be helping you? And she's like, I don't know. It can't help anything. It just makes me mad. And I said, well, if you look at the response, how do you know your side is true? And how do you know their side, if their side is true? And she's like, well, I have, written evidence of this. I was like, okay, great. So you know yours to be true because the person signed something and they said that they didn't, and you have a signature. Awesome. What about the next piece? And eventually she realized that in the person answering the way that they had, and with all the lies that they had, she was able to find solid, let's say, evidence, like written in a text, written in the signed papers and everything, saying the contrary. So it was actually in what the person was writing back, it was helping her with her story, and to see and to show other people, because this was an instance where other people had to see it as well, that what the truth was happening. So the truth is the highest frequency. The truth will come out either way. And so you don't actually always have to defend the truth, because you just know that it's true. And also here's the thing, multiple truths can exist at one time. And we often fail to see that when we're in an argument, when we're triggered, when we're talking to somebody else. Their truth, their lived experience could be different from your lived experience. It often is. And yet both can be true. And so when we can see that, is I think when we have more conversation instead of arguments, and we ask with curiosity. No one gets upset when you're curious. When you say, I wonder, how did you come up with that? And we teach it too. You can teach it to children. A lot of the times when they say, oh, here's your, mom, I drew this picture. And you're like, that's nice. Oh, that's lovely. Then you're or, whatever. It doesn't ask them to tell you more when there's so much more story behind it. You can get more out of it and from them because you want them to get the skill of them being proud of themselves. Because they come and show you things, because people show you things because they want you to say, good job, I'm so proud of you. Because when you were children, we were children, that's what our parents did. They say, oh, you did such a great job, I'm so proud of you. That was such a great drawing. But what we actually want is for our children to be able to say it to themselves. I did good, no matter what other people think externally of what is happening with this drawing that I did. I know I put my hard work into it. I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. And they may or may not see it that way. And yet I'm okay because I know I liked it. So we want to be able to have an internal reflection of, I did a good job. And at first, our parents model that to us. Oh, you did so good. It's so lovely. But you can increase that by saying, tell me about this. Why did you use your color? Tell me about this shape. Tell me about your drawing. Why did you use your color there? Why did you choose that? And that allows them to think internally, why did I choose that? Oh, I really like red. I like drawing hearts. Today I was in a mood where I wanted to draw a whole lot of hearts. Awesome. And you're allowed to draw that because you're in that mood. But if my daughter showed my brother, he might be, there's too many hearts, I don't like it. And then if she hadn't had her own internal reflection of, I really like the drawing and I chose to draw it because I'm in a good mood and I love hearts, it doesn't matter what he says. Then she might think that drawing hearts is not good anymore because her brother doesn't like it. And so we need to be able to have that skill and teach ourselves, if we haven't been taught, how to internally decide something, whether we're proud of something, whether we have succeeded in something, have an internal measurement versus the external circumstance, whether you hit your goal or not. So in your becoming, it is all about you and how you're seeing that you've improved. It doesn't matter what the external result is, as long as you internally feel that you're improving or that you're learning or that you're growing in some way. It has always been about your becoming. It's never been about the goal. It was who you're becoming along the way. And the brilliant thing is the goals are a byproduct of who you become. So if along the way you're becoming someone who's really generous and who really wants to help a lot of people, and they choose, let's say, to do it through business, and you inspire others and you make a difference in their lives, the finances, the whatever else that you're asking for is a byproduct of that. So even though most people are focusing on their goals, if you focus on your becoming, the goals actually become part of the process and you achieve them more. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to have any questions, first of all, or who would like to add anything? Okay, I'll give you guys a minute. So in August, we're going to have the month off, so there will be no masterclass in August, and then in September we will start the masterclasses again. For those of you who were in the Catalyst Challenge and you really enjoyed having the daily trainings, I'm going to send out an email. I do something called the Daily Dose of Healing every single morning. Well, every single day, you end up with a daily training and based on different themes. So every month is a different theme. So this last month, our masterclass was the 12 stages of healing. And in the Daily Dose of Healing, I went through all 12 stages of healing and we talked about the 12 stages of healing for the whole month. This month in July, we're talking about your becoming. So every single day, similar to the Catalyst Challenge of the last 21 days, I drop a new training into our group, the Daily Dose of Healing. So if you want to continue to receive daily messages, you can come into the Daily Dose of Healing. There's over 650, I think, trainings in there because we've been doing it for a couple, almost 2 years now. And so, excuse me, you have access to all the different trainings that I've ever done in there, should you decide that you enjoy this format and that you want to continue to learn more in this way. If not, then I will see you either in the office, or I will see you online in 2 months' time if for our next masterclass. So I thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.